Hello and welcome to week 5 of season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. Last week we saw a lot of action on the Harrogate circuit, of course the course for the 2019 UCI World Road Race Championships, but tonight it's a completely different kettle of fish. We have the team time trial of season 2 of the Zwift Racing League in the heart of New York City. Yes, the riders are taking a chunk out of the Big Apple on the mighty Metropolitan course, and alongside me for the ride today, the rolling ride around NYC, is the legend that is to Dave Tao, live from Boulder.
Thank you very much, Matt. Good day.
Thanks very much, Dave. Good to see you again, mate. I mean, we're halfway through the season so far, or season 2, should I say. So much has happened. There's so much to talk about. We'd almost need a separate program. But what have been your takeaways as we reach the halfway point of season 2?
Well, you know, when you look back on both the men's and the women's side of things, we've seen some outstanding individual performances. On the women's side, Catherine Curie has been next level. There's no doubt about it, picking up a couple of wins along the way. And I'd say the same thing for Freddie Ovett on the men's side, but how can you forget about Lima Vyazin and what he's been doing as well? So looking back, it's interesting. The consistency of in the men's side and women's side, for that matter, of teams like Canyon or Hino, that's been impressive, but also how exposed you are to one bad day, Matt. We saw that happen with PO Auto Ceramic Speed. Now, they went from being the kings of the jungle to now chasing Canyon, and they're ready for the fight. There's no doubt about it. That's going to be one of the great stories going forward. But when you look back, I think that the vulnerability that you have is really the story out here, is you're only as good as your last race.
No, definitely. That's a really, really good point. I mean, we saw the tables completely turned last week, especially in the men's. But I think the thing for me, Dave, has just been the sheer depth of talent, some of the new names coming through. And I think just to reflect a little bit on the men's again, of all of the points races, we've had a different individual winner each time, different sets of circumstances. And of course, the standout rider from the women's has been Catherine Curie. She has been a real revelation. But also, let's not forget some of the teams that have come through from the community. That's what really has fascinated me, especially in the men's Zwift Nation. But also, let's not forget some of the teams that have come through from the community. That's what really has fascinated me, especially in the men's Zwift Warriors. And we have a new real character, the real fighter, that is Takada Akida as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the storylines that when the first Zed Racing League started, everybody was really excited about how the community would fare. And they have more than kept their head above water out here. As a matter of fact, there have been some outstanding rides. That's a great example out of Japan. Kirkmeyer is another. On the women's side of things, you can look at Aeonian, who've done a tremendous job just stepping right into the thick of it and more than holding their own. That's exciting for all of the people that race out there in the community league. All that racing happens on Tuesdays as we make our way around the globe. Almost 10,000 people, including you. I heard, Matt, I heard you were out there with the Rockets from Zwift headquarters. How'd that go?
It went really well. I say it went really well. I've still got pains in my legs from last week, but it did give me a real insight into what riding a team time trial on the Zwift platform. And fair play to WTRL to pulling that together. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But boy, was that a lot of fun. But boy, did I suffer. It was a real sufferfest, but a real experience and insight into the nuanced nature of communicating as part of a team, riding on the wheel, the benefit of the draft, timing your turns. So much to talk about, but a real valuable experience for me, Dave. Now, we're going to look a little bit more about what's in store tonight for the riders on the New York course in a few moments' time. But before we do that, Dave, let's have a look back at some of the spectacular action from the roads of Harrogate in Yorkshire last week. Week 4 men's racing now. They're absolutely romping up this climb. Some massive numbers being thrown down.
That's a surge up and over the top, and is that going to be Freddie Ovett? It looks like it is. The Australian is back, and he is in full effect. Last week's winner is crushing souls out here.
We've still got a pretty sizable group here.
You can see it starting to thin out now. A couple more watts here, and Freddie Ovett will be right behind Chris McGlinchey there.
Ottoman from Ikeda there. Back onto the climb, and a few riders on this steeper section. The ones who've got the featherweight power-ups, using them wisely here. There are still 60 riders in this group.
It's unraveling. Freddie Ovett is up near the front. 5K to go.
We've still got around 55 riders in this front group, just showing the depth.
The Austin moving up to the front. Look at this, it's Matteo Cigala.
Harvard Gledner's just ahead of Freddie Ovett, and the ever-present Lionel Vuillersan. That's his third podium of season 2. That was a blanket close finish here. Well, it really was some breathless racing. We had two completely styles of racing in the men's and women's events, but a real tough kind of field sprint. But as we said, Dave, team time trial, completely a different discipline, especially on a course like we've got tonight. Let's have a little look at the course. If you don't mind doing the honours, Dave, and just giving us a nice description of what the riders are going to face on the mighty Metropolitan this evening.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's almost exactly 20 kilometers. You can see just 70 meters more than that, with 319 meters of climbing along the way. This is an extremely lumpy course. The New York King of the Mountain Reverse is going to be the pinch point out here. This is a 1.1 kilometer climb at 5.9%. So what your team looks like as you come over the top of that climb is, I mean, I don't know if you can wait more than a couple of seconds for a fourth or fifth rider at that point. Obviously, the third is the crux of the situation. Out here is all teams starting with 5. But this course, it's not a team time trial today. This is team time trial extreme. We've never seen anything quite like this before. And Matt, I'm really excited for this. This is what the ZRL is all about. When you look at what we're trying to do with the league, well, right at the midpoint now, it's not do or die, but there are some teams that are really going to be trying to eke out a couple extra points, and it's going to come down to not your strongest rider, the third and fourth riders on the team, and what they can deliver out here on this, I think, the most challenging team time trial course that we will ever see in the history of racing on esports.
Yeah, it's certainly going to test the team's resilience, their ability to work as a unit, and I think it's going to test the ability and how they communicate, not just in terms of the tactical side of it, but encouraging the riders to go as deep as they can. That is going to be the real kind of crux here. I think it's going to be very easy for riders' heads to drop here, but you cannot afford to do that, especially if you've already lost a couple of riders. Now, Dave, come off the back of Harrogate. Let's have a look as we head into New York tonight what the series standings are so far, and as we know, it is very close indeed at the top of the rankings.
Yeah,
there we
sure
go.
Is.
Canyon Esports, Canyon Esports at the top there, 74 points to the good. Saris and the Pros Closet, well, they're equal on second. It is very, very tight indeed with the PO Auto Ceramic Speed. Of course, they were the leaders going into last week, but they had a bit of a nightmare race in in Harrogate. Legion of Los Angeles in 4th. Dutch Racing, they've got the individual win to their name there in 5th. Callas, with that win last week, has moved them up to 6th. Then we have the Zwift Warriors, new to the Premier Division. Una X Pro Cycling, sadly they're not racing with us tonight. Kirkmare, one of the revelations of the series so far, and then rounding out the top 10, the World Elite Zwifters. Now, Dave, as we can see at the top there, it's still very, very close indeed. There are the points just leading down to the top 20. And, of course, it's worth mentioning as well now, Dave, some of the teams are going to be a little bit nervous because it's not only who is crowned champions at the end of the series. A couple of teams, 3 teams in fact, are going to be dropping down into the lower leagues as well. So there's going to be some nervous times now heading into the final part of the season.
Yeah, and I would say that there's 6 teams that should be worried about that conversation, to tell you the truth. You might draw the line right underneath Bolt Racing there, to tell you the truth. That's one of the storylines out here. I mean, this is what's so dynamic about today, is that there are riders who are sitting right now in the start pen that are very concerned about what they're going to be able to do for the team. As a matter of fact, I'm going to guess that there's going to be sacrificial lambs for these squads as well. This is a day, I want to go back to what you were just talking about, Matt, where the director sportif is going to be one of the most critical roles. As a matter of fact, if you're going to have a good day for your director, today's the day for them to have it, because they are going to be really looking to encourage riders, trying to throttle back some of the strongest riders, and just keep a cohesive unit working together. What a massive challenge this makes for incredibly exciting racing. So, we've talked about some of the favorite teams to look at. Obviously, Canyon coming in on top of the table with a nice little buffer right now. They now are in the driver's seat, Matt. No doubt about it. I would always say, don't sleep on Ceres, the pros closet. They're a team that has a very good chance of doing a stunner of a ride out here today. They've got that nice combination of team time trial technique and skills with solid climbing depth. That's going to be the difference. And Matt, I don't think I need to tell you to watch out for Vetus. This might be their day. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't get long odds on them, to tell you the truth. I think anybody who really follows e-racing would think, wait a second. If this is about a team that's got 3 really good climbers, wouldn't that be Vetus with McGlinchey, Mottram and company?
Yeah, the Vitus. You'd think that a course like this would suit them. I think before we came on air, we were talking about the nature of this course, and rather than a team time trial course, I think I've called it a gnarly chain gang course. It's going to suit a group of riders that know each other very well, know their own strengths and their weaknesses, and also are gelled together by either a very, very good road captain or DS. And I do wish that maybe we'll speak to the guys at Zwift headquarters and try and get a GoPro or a camera in with the DSs, because I think there's going to be a couple of DSs tonight, almost like pulling their hair out, because this is going to be stressful all the way along the way. Let's have a little look, a deeper look at some of the teams. I believe we're going to see Canyon, their full lineup. There we go. There's the lineup of Canyon, a team that we know so well. West, Muller, Jones, and Vuyasan. You think they could be the team that really pull it off tonight, potentially?
Well, and you know what? They have the pedigree. They absolutely are the team to beat, I think, on paper here. I'll be surprised. I mean, again, they don't have to win out either for the rest of the season. Seconds and thirds are just fine, but I would expect to see them on top of the podium, to tell you the truth. This is a team that is tried and true, and they might be one of the teams that also finishes with more than 3 riders out here, Matt.
Indeed. Well, let's have a look at the lineup of PO Auto. They were the leaders. Anders Foldega, Hansen, Frederick Muff, a very good sprinter, Nicholas Pedersen, Emil Tudal, and Mads Rebeck. Of course, Foldega, already a medalist in the World Championships. That's a team with a lot of depth, but a really different sort of parkour today. And of course, we've never seen them perform on a course like this. Tonight's course presents us with a unique proposition. But if there's a team that could deliver, PO Auto Ceramic Speed could be one of those. Let's have a little look at Saris, Dave.
Yeah, I agree with you on PO Auto Ceramic Speed, Matt. No doubt about it. 2 of those guys were on the podium at Worlds, which has a pretty similar climb. Ryan Larson, Mike Cumming, Gavin Dempster out of Scotland, Dan Fleeman, and Matt Gardner. This is the team I was saying, do not sleep on Ceres, the pros closet. They're going to be right up in the mix. Now, this is going to be, when you talk about a gut check with team time trialing, this is one of the teams that's done their homework. I'm really excited for them to see what they can do. They're one of the teams that comes into this one champing at the bit, Matt, talking about Ceres, the pros closet. I'll throw it back to you with Team Swedish Zwifters. A lot of experience on this squad.
Indeed, you've got Alexander Wetterell, Johan Noren, Marcus Dorsch, Marcus Sögren, and then Marcus Lindqvist. And interesting rider there, Alexander Wetterell, a very, very good individual time trialist, has ridden at pro-continental level on the road as well. And they're a team that kind of, we know they're very, very good all round. It will be interesting to see how they gel tonight, but I think Wetterell could be their key player and be doing a lot of pulls as we look at our final lineup. The men in red talk us through Vitus Esports.
I think one of the really exciting racers in esports is Chris McGlinchey. He's going to have quite a career as a professional, the Northern Irish rider. Then you've got Chris Ashton, Matteo Sigala, Adam Kenway, and Mikey Mottram. This is another team that's going to punch way above their weight out there, Matt. Watch out for Vitus Esports today. I think we've done a really good job of highlighting the teams to watch. Another one that I'd keep my eye on is Legion of LA as well. So here we go. We are locked and loaded. This is not a drill, a pivotal day in the history of the Zwift Racing League. This one is going to be incredibly exciting. We're very close to sending riders out on course, Matt. Here we go. Andiamo.
We are indeed. It's just right on cue. We couldn't have timed that better. Well done to the production team for keying us up so neatly there. We have 30 seconds until the first team goes off. Remember, on today's team time trial course, the runs will be set off at 30-second intervals. The last team will be Canyon Esports, and the first team will be the KISS Racing team. The KRT, the men in blue with a kind of orange and a light blue stripe. They've got 5 riders to go off first. And they'll be rolling off very, very shortly indeed. In fact, they're riding off now. Here they go. And their full lineup, of course, is Tadej Bednar. They've got Timothy Torre, Elliot Holtham, Rob Britt, key standing teams, of course, of Zwift Racing. And this early key part, they need to move off quickly, but they've got to make sure they don't drop everybody. So it's making sure they're talking to each other. This is actually, this roll-off, Dave, was one of the bits that fascinated me when I rode last week with the rockets from Zwift headquarters. It's making sure that everybody's on board and then gradually building things up as quickly as you can and constantly talking to each other.
Yeah, the directors will be on, well, the entire team will be on Discord. Matt, that was extremely cool. Thanks to our production team for showing that, because people have wondered, how does it all start? Well, that was exactly it. The teams have been given their setback time. So you kind of have like Greenwich Mean Time, and then everybody operates on an hour later. Well, in this case, it's 30 seconds that you're waiting for. Matt's exactly right about bringing it up to speed without blowing up the team in the first 200 meters. That's an art form, that's for sure. We've had Ashton Lambie racing with us in the Community League, Matt, the world record holder in the pursuit, and was leading the U.S. Olympic movement for the team pursuit. And that's exactly what we're talking about, getting 4 riders, well, 5 riders ideally. Let's talk about the ground rules here super quickly. Every team should start with 5 ideally. 3 riders, though, is the pinch point. Your time will be taken off of that third rider's wheel. We're going to get right down to brass tacks incredibly quickly here. When you look at this course, if you look at the profile, Matt, if you were in a hospital, you would think you were looking at an EKG of a man who just had a heart attack. It is not a good scene. It's nothing but ups and downs. And ultimately, as a racer yourself, you know that means it's going to be a really hard day when you're racing on the road, point to point. Well, when you're doing a team time trial, that means it's going to be absolutely brutal. And in many different ways. We've talked about the directors, the role that they play, keeping things together. Here's a team that's doing a very good job. No Pins R3R here rolling out. They've got those cool kits as well with the cooling gels that they freeze and slide in. You're going to be looking for that. This is Turbo, Matt, that we're picking up with right now. Tanner Ward, Hayden Warner, William Zogabe, Andrew Evans, and Jack Barty out on course. Familiar kit.
Indeed.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, they're out on the course. This early part of the course, remember, very, very quick to roll out. Again, riders have got to make sure that they are talking to each other. And it is amazing, really. Again, we know that there's a benefit of riding on the wheel in real life. There's a big, big saving as we look at draft now. Another team in red, Bruce Bird, Jed Scott, Ryan Rudderham. I can assure you he's riding, although his little picture isn't quite there. Ryan, do send it in on an email, please, mate. Warren Muir is there as well as Ross Fawcett. But it really, to me, last week when I was riding this time trial for the very, very first time, Dave, how much you do save when you get on the wheel of another rider. Really on a course like this is between 30 to 45 seconds on the front. They'll then drop off there. You won't surge, you'll just basically keep the kind of speed high, drop down the line and try and drop into the wheel behind. And generally there can be a difference of a whole watt per kilo from sitting on the back and sitting on the front. You can ride on the front at 450 watts, sit behind at about 320. There's such a big saving. So as tight as you can is absolutely crucial as we look at restart racing into the early part of the course.
Well said, Matt. The thing, when you watch that, the critical moment for every rider, the crux of the situation is when you come off of the front after your big effort, you're exposed, and being able to slot right in, not letting that gap open up. And very much like the team pursuit here, it's precision, surgical level precision is required. And on this part of the course, absolutely that comes into play. There's going to be some sectors where it's just you against the climb as well out there, struggling just to stay together. So Team Swedish Zwifters, this is a team to watch. No doubt they come in as on the short list of squads, but here is a very special team, especially today. I'm really excited. Now they had a skin already. That was the outlier. The two. So on the spectrum of result from season 2, Matt, what happened with the Auto serving speed? I was wondering, why isn't Michael Knudsen racing? He's the Everesting. He has the Everest Zwift record. Fantastic climber. A work commitment was the answer there. Critical ride that they're missing on a day when you really didn't want to be missing a big hammer. That's for sure. That guy's not a hammer. He's a slider. So this man is that we're now Chigala and Matt. Every one of these teams right now is that's Jordan Shane, the Canadian, there on the front. Every team right now is more damage control until you hit the climb. You just want to water around to be in with a fighting chance by the time that you hit that the reverse KOM. The thing about the reverse KOM is there's about 300 meters of climbing before you, excuse me, I'm talking about distance, not to the bottom. Officially start the reverse KOM by climbing right there as well. This is Finesse Rockets that we've got in front of us.
Yeah, Finesse Rockets out on the course. Finesse, well, it's a 10th to soft. I've got Insured, Pedal Power, World Elite Zwifters coming after them. And here are Insured, Jake Simmons, Simon Collard, Matt Moen and Neil Ostenfeld. So a German and 3 riders from the United States of America. Now have a look at the stats. When you see the rider on the front just rolled, you've got Collard on the front. Now just look at the way his watts increase. He's putting out 443 watts. He'll probably do around 30 to 45 seconds on the front, depending on what the team instructions are, and the other riders will sit behind. So look, Collard well into the 400. Everybody else sat about 60 or 70 watts below of how much energy you can save, but still showing how strong these are. Look, 6.4 watts per kilogram while he's on the front, and behind for around a watt and a half in terms of watts per kilo for saving. I think a real good indicator there of how much you can save. He'll then swing off, get to the pack, get to the back, make sure he doesn't lose too much speed, but you can actually just knock off the pace by freewheeling for a couple of seconds, drift back, put back the power, and then get back onto the back wheel in front. There really is a real technique to it, and an unusual bit of headgear there for Mr. Kershaw.
Yeah, it's a fade that you do with a slam on the end, right? You fade off of the front because the rider who's pulling through, Matt, as you note, is not letting the speed drop. That's the name of the game. If a lot of these teams, when they look at their schedule, will talk about we need to keep it at 50, 51 kilometers per hour through this sector. So when you hit to drop to 48, then go to 52, then drop down to 50, because that starts blowing up legs right behind you. The gaps open up and things go haywire quickly. Yeah, I mean, look at it. That 430 watts, we're in with World Elite Zwifters, a team with a tremendous amount of experience. You So just the raw data that we flat point look at right there tells me that they're doing a tremendous job. This is Kirkmeyer. Now, this is another team that in the World Tactical Racing League races, they're into their 94th week of team time trialing, 94th consecutive week. And this is one of the teams that they bring a that has deep reservoirs with a lot of talented riders. You can see it's an all-German team here. Ingo Reichardt has been one of the hot riders of the season, as has Johannes Reckenauer, Andre Reiland, Jan Steinman, and Jakob Stenzel. That makes up this team that I definitely put them in with the shot today as well. I know, Matt, at this point I've put 8 teams into my top 3, I think. I'm putting, but it's just that kind of exciting racing. You just never know what's going to happen out here, Matt. I get so excited about thinking about possibilities, and here's a team that you have highlighted that a lot of people are saying are squad to watch, the Zwift Warrior Cycling.
Oh, definitely. I think on a course like this as well, we know they've got a lot of lighter riders. Again, 4 Japanese and an Australian. The Australian Simon Ritchie, Takato Ikeda himself with a podium spot in Innsbruck. What an impressive ride. A really aggressive ride as well. He wasn't sat in the wheels and went off towards the end. He really was a protagonist on that particular race. Watch out for him. But of course, it's not about the strongest rider, as Dave alluded to at the top of the show. It's about sticking together. And did you see that? Just Hasachi did freewheel for a little bit. He just used that freewheel just to speed the pace of dropping back, then kicked on the power and get back onto the back wheel. That was a tremendous little demonstration there of the technique that you need to learn here riding at the team time trial. Callas will be the next team up. Of course, they had the individual winner last week with Hardvard Gjeldnes, his first big win in Zwift, and they have a very, very strong team. Such depth. Martin Omdahl, excuse my pronunciations here, by the way. I'm doing my very, very best. Ovind Learning Bier, Harvard Glednes, the winner last week, as I said before, and Ole Christian Farr early in their race. And this Dave, is one of the flatter parts of the course because it really needs to undulate before they start the foot that very, very difficult climb.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we've seen even that much flat out there, as this course profile is next level, no doubt about it. And with the Dutch racing team now, as Joost van Bosch, Rick Ottema, Michael Voets, another rider who's had some outstanding moments along the way, and Etienne van Empel, another team with tremendous team time trial experience. It's going to be interesting to see how they get over that reverse KOM. That is going to be the story of the day. So I'm missing one rider there. It sounds like we've got them all.
Yeah, we're just missing A. Kevin, I think we are, unfortunately. But occasionally we do get little bits of data drop out. But all 5 rods are there. We're just showing 4 of their stats. But they're a team that could do well on this course. And again, they're one of the teams that have been a level kit change. And this, you pointed it out as a team to watch. They did very well in the first team time trial of the series. They were 4th, but only 6 seconds behind. And it's worth reminding the viewers today of the results of that first team time trial, because the first 10 teams were split over only 26 seconds. Legion of Los Angeles in the time trial around the RGV route in France were 4th, 6 seconds behind PO Auto Ceramic Speed. Kirkmeyer, remember, was 2nd at 5. Canyon Esports on the same time pretty much. It was only a couple of hundredths of the second that split those 2 squads. So I am expecting this today, Dave, to be very, very close still. Although it's a completely different course, I think at the top it might not be just 5 or 6 seconds, but maybe the top 5 spread over 15 or 20 seconds.
Well, if I'm a director here today, Matt, I'm going to look at my team and take a very honest assessment of the talent and where we're at. And if I need to sacrifice a rider in the first 10K, and we're anticipating having time checks at 10.2 kilometers in today. So, Matt, I saw Corey Williams taking a monster pull there for Legion of LA, just like we're seeing Gardner doing it right now for Ceres the Posit. I'm going to ask my closers, all right? I'm going to look at the 3 guys that I anticipate finishing. I'm going to tell them, guys, for the first half of this race, I'm going to have you sit on a bit here. Actually, the first half of the first half, to tell you the truth. But through this sector, I'm going to have you guys sit on, and we're going to use one of our workhorses here, who I'm going to ask to go above and beyond, rather than those 30 or 40 seconds. And Matt, I completely agree with you. That's the rotation that you're looking for, as this is Canyon, so it'll be interesting to see what they're doing here. But Matt, I might sacrifice a rider and try to eke out an extra 2 kilometers per hour by using that rider through this sector and realizing they're never going to make it up over that first climb, and that's okay. They've done their job.
We're looking at Canyon Esports. Of course, they were the last team off today. 10.5 minutes covering all of these teams out on the road, and we are going to get a stat up very, very shortly indeed, just to show us the fastest teams. And there we go. Well, the
5K.
The fastest team. Yeah, the fastest 5K, Kirkmare. Well, that's not too much of a surprise. Not all the teams have gone through that point at the moment, but Kirkmare are there, 6 minutes and 42 seconds. That is very, very quick indeed. And we're looking at KISS racing now on the climb, on the brutal climb. It's only, remember, 1.1 Ks, average gradient at 5.7%, but that doesn't really reflect the steeper sections on this climb. There are a couple of flat sections, even a little bit of a descent, and I think the teams are going to find it a big challenge to measure their effort on this climb and to make sure that the pure climbers or the better climbers don't escape. And Kirkmare here on the climb.
On these beautiful glass roads in New York, they've still got 5 together. That's a very good sign. Remembering that we've only had one. So season 1, we had an equally weighted team time trials, and points tweaked that a little bit, slightly less team time trialing. So that being said, the teams that look at this as a forte, they can't really count this one as a classic team time trial either. So you really want to make the most of the opportunities you have when you're racing at this level. And for a couple of teams, I think Vetus is a good example. This might be your breakthrough day out here. All right, it looks like some of the teams going through that first check. We were looking again. Not all of the teams had been through at 5K yet, so we've got some faster times coming, I would guess, Matt. I'm going to think that Kirkmare holds on with the top 5 time. We'll see how many squads can go a little bit better, or if anyone can. You never know. Kirkmare is certainly in the mix for a great ride out here today.
Oh no, definitely. Kirkmare setting their course on fire at the moment. This is the KRT, the KISS racing team, the first team off the ramp. Looking at some of the heart rates, 189, 194 BPM, and this is the only opportunity on this particular course to get any little bit of rest. Of course, you need to get up to 58 kilometers an hour, then you can stop pedaling, and your avatar will get into a super tuck. As you can just see, the couple of riders behind, the 3 riders that are left. This is important now for the KISS racing team. They cannot lose a rider. They've lost a couple of their riders on the climb. Holtman there is the last rider from that squad, opting for an aero helmet. As we look at the restart team, and good to see they've still got 5 riders, and that is a really nice cluster. That is the ideal situation, isn't it? Keeping together, they're clearly communicating with each other very well, and they've got half the climb done.
That was the first thing that came to my mind, Matt, was the communication. The director must be doing a tremendous job here. That's a strong rider, the Canadian there, tagged onto the group, Luc Gilbeault, that we're looking at. Jaden Yeager as well, rider out of Wisconsin. This team, well, for the team time trial, Matt, when you go back and historically look at this sport in real life, you would see 4 Soviets or East Germans or Italians or Dutch riders that were almost exactly the same in body type and composition and ability, because these races were done on mostly flat courses. Well, not in the ZRL. And because of that, it's interesting to see a team at this point with 5 together. It's a very good sign for your future as a team time trial squad. We'll see what happens later. Obviously, this is the gold standard that we're looking at now. Now, to be fair, they didn't win the first team time trial, but this team has been so incredibly consistent. I think that they probably lost a little sleep this week, though, Matt, thinking that what happened to PO Auto Ceramic Speed, it could happen to anybody. There's a lot of things you can do as a former professional yourself, Matt. I think you realize the things that most people don't think about, like flying with your shoes instead of checking them with the baggage on the plane. All those things add up to a bunch of little tiny things that you do that ensure success. And things like, I'm going to guess that every Canyon rider's hardwired their trainer into their computer, have got top-notch internet. They make sure they pay their internet bill on time. And,
Yep.
you know, you just can't be a victim to any kind of mistake. And it's not just your legs that can let you down.
No, it's certainly is an attention to detail. And Reese Howell, of course, himself a very, very good rider indeed, often races on Zwift. He is their director sportif. He's not just on Discord, they've actually got a big video screen up, so he'll be piped into each of these riders. He'll be there, his big face, calling the shots, making sure they ride it as a real good collective info. Your sound is moving up the outside, and what you might actually see on the climb a little bit more than on the flat is this bunching up as they almost like ride side by side, because when you kick up, if you look at the top right of your screen there, they've gone up this little rise. That was 12%. Rather than ride in a line there, because there's not quite as much benefit to drafting when you're really slowing down and you're going up a climb. It's when gravity comes into play. You need to keep each other in sight. And then as the road flattens, get on the front. But there's a real good illustration of riding as a complete unit there. And that's no real surprise, because they are a real good proponent at this sort of discipline.
Yeah, they've certainly done their homework. So looking at these time checks coming in, 14:32 is draft, and that's where they stop the clock at 10.2k in. Matt, it's surprisingly close, to tell you this truth. Restarted just 5.5 seconds back, a little more than that, 7.91 for Team Swedish. There's Vitus. Now, remembering there's a lot of climbing ahead, so we'll see a lot will change by the time we get to the finish line and put paid for this one. We're back in with Restart Racing here. Daniel Howe, Jade, Luke, and Thomas looking really good at this point. 20K, the total distance of racing. We've talked about the 319 meters along the way of vertical gain. That's the difference maker on this one. I am honestly surprised, Matt, to tell you the truth, as we're going to go jump in with Finesse next, to see these teams with these many riders still hanging on, or more than just hanging on, looking really good at this point. These squads are showing a lot of depth today.
They certainly are, and it shows that they put the practice in. There are lots of opportunities. There's so much racing in the community week in, week out, and these teams, as well as doing these races, will have taken the opportunity to ride on different courses, making sure everybody understands the kind of the art of the team time trial. You never perfect that art, but you can constantly chip away and get better and better, and that is what we're seeing. This is the Finesse Rockets here, just rocketing down the KOM. That little opportunity we talked about before to have that bit of a micro rest. Jordan Chain of Canada, Karsten Ivani, Timmy Bauer, Joseph Chudik, and Alex Tenselhoff just out of the saddle there. I think they have actually lost one rider, and you can just see the other teams coming in the other direction. Remember, on this particular course, they actually loop round and then come back down part of the same way. So they're actually retreading parts of the course, and then they go around the perimeter, taking in some real interesting sights and sounds of New York City, of course, past the mighty Metropolitan Museum, as we just see Canyon Esports. Now they're coming to the top of the climb here. They've topped the first part of the climb as Alex West takes that left-hand corner, and the road really does start to kick up. And good to see they've still got 5 riders here, but again, that isn't really any surprise. They're so good. But it looks like West, his job is done. He's led them in, and now he has pulled the pin.
Yeah, right at that very moment, you can see it perfectly executed there. Did the work, took a huge pull, and when it was over, that was it. He completely emptied himself for the team. Good job, Alex. Matt, I think this is fascinating, to tell you the truth. So I mentioned the community racing we do on Thursdays with WTRL. We also, of course, have nearly 10,000 people that race tomorrow in their own Zwift Racing League. And because of Discord, and we use that for work as well, I sometimes have these bizarre conversations that pop up. Now, they're always teams, but I am seeing a lot of the squads who are watching in the Community League are mentioning, and the influence of the Premier League is great here, saying, look how many guys are using disc wheels. I think we should if we have them. But then that changes everything when you look at Canyon, one of the teams that has access to disc wheels certainly, and is not choosing to use them, going for the lightweight wheels. Always fascinating to see. They're going to forego the aerodynamic advantage of that disc wheel to try to get every 1/10 of a second they can on the climb. And to tell you the truth, I don't second guess Canyon.
No, I think they know what they've done. They've clearly done their research. They know what equipment to use. And that is interesting because, as you said, several of the teams gone for the disc, and it might be the type of composition of the team. A team that know they're going to lose time on the climbs but gain on the flatter sections might opt for a disc because that's where they can get more benefit. But a team that knows they can actually take more on the uphill sections and maybe going for a slightly lighter setup. So it is really, really interesting. But I tell you what, I know that Reece Howell, the DS of this squad, the manager of this squad, will leave no stone unturned in terms of making sure that the equipment is optimized, the wheel choice is optimized as well, and of course the tactics. They did use Ollie Jones, not Ollie Jones, they used Alex West. He's a powerfully built rider, took them into the bottom of the climb, almost swung off, and his avatar came to a complete halt. We've never seen that before, Dave, have we? Because we haven't had the course, but they've clearly said this is what we need to do. We need to get to the bottom of the climb as quickly as possible. We've got 4 riders, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of time they do. Because look, PO Auto Ceramic Speed at the top of the board, 11.04 seconds clear of Dutch Racing. World of Elite Swifters third at 13 seconds. Still very tight at the top. 27 seconds separating the top 10 teams so far. This just shows the real standard of racing we've got here, Dave.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, when you see West there, it almost looked like a technical, we call it in this sport, where it went from a lot of watts to 0 watts super quickly, or a biomechanical, you would think. But no, that was a guy finishing his shift at the coal mine, and he was done. He was out of there. So as we go back in again, Canyon, a great team to be following right now. This is incredibly close. So PO Auto coming in some fresh data for us now. See Saris, the pros closet. Well, and just as I say that, we've got a new fast time. Yep, there it is. Canyon Esports with a 14:06. So that's your gold standard. Saris in at second now at that check. That was 10.2K in, so really almost exactly the midpoint, although there's a lot to remember with the climbing. PO Auto is close. All right, this one is going to go down to, and here's the first catch that I have witnessed out here, and it looks like PO Auto Ceramic Speed is going to take one down here.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting. It looks like they're going to catch the Legion. It's going to be Legion of Los Angeles. Oh, this is absolute. No, sorry, it could be Could it be Saris and the pros closet? I think it's Legion they're actually catching, because Legion struggling on this course. Or was it? It looks, it's Legion. It's Legion. They've actually caught Legion. Yeah, so Legion shipped 25 seconds on the climb, and that just shows how well PO Auto Ceramic Speed are going there. Foldinger, Muff, Pedersen, Tudal, Rabak. Well, they have caught the American squad, who are down to 3 riders. There's lots of ride-ons going up there. This is a tremendous. They'll know the gap as well, of course. Their DS will be communicating the time gaps, the work they've got to do to close this up. They were the winners of the first team time trial of season 2. Remember, 5 seconds clear of Kirkmare. Canyon Esports only 6, and at the moment, Canyon Esports are trying to turn the tables. But the interesting thing here, Dave, look at the composition of PO Auto Ceramic Speed. They've still got 5 riders.
They are on a mission. There's no doubt the disappointment. They had some technicals early in the race last week, and then chips just didn't fall their way at the end of the race. Well, they are hyper motivated out here as this Danish team, again, one of the few teams with 5, probably the only team at this point with 5, is even Canyon has had to give up one rider. We've mentioned that already, but they are absolutely flying. This was a team that came in with high hopes out here today, and I'm not seeing Vitus here in the top 10, so we'll do a little more data mining there. Canyon, again, with that 14:06. That's a bit of a stunner, to tell you the truth. So this is going to be KRT. Now, they are on Cat Hill Climb right now, the infamous Cat Hill Climb in Central Park, just about 400 meters from the finish line right now, Matt. So they're going to be the first team to stop the clock out here. This will be a day to remember, as this one is just about done and dusted. Boy, putting it in the rearview mirror has got to feel good out here as our first finishers are across the line. So they'll go into the hot seat.
They certainly will. I think it might be brief, though, as we look at this is the Vitus e-racing team. It's a little bit ragged, but they've got 3 riders out in front. There is the first. That is the first team to finish. They were the first to start. They didn't get caught by aero or no pins. They'll be pretty happy with that. And that is the situation at the top. first team to finish, and they have set a mark of 26 seconds and 55 seconds. And no pins with C Smart just moving through here. Looks like they might set the new quickest time, because remember they started a minute behind the KISS Racing team, although they still have a little bit of a distance to go. So not a bad start by KISS Racing there. And but unsurprisingly, No Pins have lost a couple of their riders. They are another team that are opted for the aero helmets but no disc wheels. They've opted for deep section rims. And Draft just crossing the line now. So they've done a good time. I think Draft, that's a very, very quick team indeed. They were 2 minutes behind. So there you go, Draft hit the leaderboard. 25 minutes and 51 seconds, a full minute, Dave, ahead of Team KISS Racing, and 39 seconds ahead. So good ride there by Draft.
Yeah, outstanding. Put a gold star next to that one. That should hold up to not only be in the top 10, maybe even a top 6 ride from Draft out there, which would be their best performance to date in Season 2. All right, going in now with Vitus, and then let's see. That's going to be Restart right now that we're looking at. Amazing to see 5 guys. First off, that should get a special accommodation there, finishing with the entire team here, but not going to get in quicker than Draft. Again, 25.51. That's going to hold up for a little while out here. Matt, Swedish Zwifters, they've got 5 as well. I'll admit, this is a good day for the league as far as if you look at the depth, not only that the teams have, but just the league overall has. These are some solid rides, and the best is yet to come. Let's see how the Swedes do.
I think this will be a good time, actually, because Dutch Racing haven't crossed the line, so it looks as if the Swedes have actually caught the Dutch out on the course, who will get their time through very, very shortly indeed. As we look at Vitus Esports out on the road, Kenway, Giglia and McGlinchey. Giglia is actually an Irishman, but he's with Italian descent. They still haven't changed the logo there, but 3 riders left. That's going to make this run into the line very, very hard, Dave, isn't it?
Yeah, to be fair, it is quite a conundrum when you look at Matteo, as he lives in Ireland and has for quite a while, but he does hold an Irish passport. So it sort of goes into that esports world, and also the global sport that we have. And it's more global than ever with Zwift. Northern Irishman Christopher McGlinchey up to the front here. And it's funny, he doesn't use the Northern Irish flag, which I know is available as well. So, you know what, there's a little bit of wiggle room out there. So, okay, Draft with that 25.51. You can see how close it was between Restart and Swedish, though, Matt. Just a few tenths of a second there, separating second and third. That's on top of the table right now, but things are certainly going to change as we got a lot of teams coming in. And here is Vitus Hot Soup coming through. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, Giglia, McGlinchey, Kenway just about to cross the line. 3 riders strong for the men in red. Their time will come up very, very shortly indeed. As we're just looking at Finesse Rockets, I think it is Finesse out on the road.
It is.
Good ride by them.
Now this will be good. This is going to be a good one here. These guys are flying. Alex Tenselhoff, a super strong rider. I believe that's Jordan Shane with them. This might be the first team to really challenge Draft here. We're going to go in with World Elite Zwifters as we'll see where that time slots in. So Finesse 32 seconds back. Boy, that Draft ride looks better and better, Matt, as time goes on here.
It does. It certainly does. I mean, Draft, just looking back, they were 11th in the first team time trial. Only 31 seconds adrift, so not bad at this effort. As we just head in to the finish line now for the World of Elite Zwifters. That's a rather spectacular kit. That's a big thumbs up from me from a kit perspective, although I'm not too sure about the aerodynamic qualities of that cloth cap there. As we look at Insured now, just rolling through. I'm expecting a good ride by the guys in white here. Insured, powered by Pedal Power. Simons, Collard, Mohan, Ostenfeld and Brady. Down to 4 riders. Ostenfred, the American, in second position there. As they roll through, the team's coming through thick and fast now, but yeah, very, very good time indeed by Draft. Who was going to be the team to beat that? 25.51. World of Elite Zwifters, very, very good indeed. Only 5.5 seconds adrift, and currently 3rd place for Restart Racing at 15, and then less than a second behind them, the team Swedish Zwifters in 4th. But I am pretty sure that time is going to be detonated, if anything, if the intermediate splits are anything to go by. Well, there we go. Insured, powered by Pedal Power. Roll across the line. And there we go. Kirchberg across the line. This, Dave, I think is going to be a good time.
That would have Draft, I would think, a little bit worried right now. They're on the edge of their seat. But I tell you, they punched above their weight out here today, Matt. No doubt about it as we go in this finishing sector. They call it Cats Hill in Central Park. You're going to get to know it very well as we're going to be bringing all of the teams home here in the next few minutes. We are locked and loaded as this is the Japanese-based team, not entirely Japanese, but been a lot of fun to watch out here this year. They certainly have delivered. They're going to bring 4 riders to the line. Okay, this is where you start wondering now, Matt, how much damage did they do in the final half of the course? That was a team I'd expect to see negative splits coming from. This is going to be the Dutch.
Yeah, the Dutch powerhouse, of course. A country and a nation renowned for their prowess in the team time trial, but again they've got 4 slightly heavier riders. Definitely they would have lost a little bit of time on that climb. I don't think this particular course suits them particularly well. Remember, they were 6th place in the opening team time trial of season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. What have the Dutch got on this finishing section? They've still got 4 riders there. Van Empel, Van der Bosch, Ottoma there. Remember, Ottoma has done his turn now. He's swung off, so they're certainly utilising their riders very, very well. Mayo Voits, of course, who won the opening individual round in Richmond. So the third counter has crossed the line. A blanket finish for the Dutch. What is going to be their squad? So Callis now, the individual winners from last week. The Norwegians clearly set a very, very good time indeed. But we're seeing lots of riders here, Dave, aren't we? Kind of take them into the final finishing straight and swing it off, and that is really the way to play it, to leave 3 riders to battle it out for the finish line.
Yeah, that's the next level of team time trialing, when you have that rider that takes one final mega pull and drops the team off at 500 meters to go, as we just saw the well-drilled Callis team doing. So this is what makes this sport so interesting. Time taken off of the third rider. That was Pio Otto that we were just looking at. Legion's going to bring it home now. These are the 3 men that have made it to the line. So this time will be taken. That's Alec Cowan coming across the line. And let's see what they can put together. I don't think this was the day that they were looking for. They've had an outstanding season 2. Back with Saris, the pros closet now. Ryan Larson's going to lead the team home, or with the squad now. They also will have sacrificed riders like the Space Shuttle, using a booster rocket along the way, using that speed, sacrificing riders. That's the difference out here. And that is Larson up on the front right now. Ryan, one of the big minds.
Dave, we've seen at PO Auto Ceramic Speed now leading. 25:27 is their time. So they went through, they had a couple, they've 1 rider just off the back. So PO Auto Ceramic Speed currently leading. That hopefully will be a good time for Saris and the pros closet. But Canyon Esports, well, one of the riders has just broken away here. It looks like there's been a couple of gaps. Well, what is the situation there? Canyon, they have finished. So we didn't quite catch them across the line there, but look at that. PO Auto Ceramic Speed 25:27, overhauling Canyon Esports, who are 1.53 seconds behind, and then a yawning chasm of a gap to Saris and the pros closet in 3rd place. So PO Auto Ceramic Speed, take that wing. Look at that, 5.11 watts per kilo. Canyon Esports so close, but they did overhaul them. They had a 5-second lead. Sorry, it's a 6-second lead at the intermediate sprint point, or the intermediate time check, should I say. They overhauled it on the second part of the course to take an absolutely sensational win, mirroring their win in the first team time trial. 3rd, Saris and the pros closet at 23 seconds. But again, there we go. The top 10 spread over only 48 seconds. But Dave, what a superb performance by PO Auto Ceramic Speed. They are back to their best.
Well, and that's their 2nd team time trial win. Meet the new boss. It's the same as the old boss. After a rough week last week, I tell you what, the old adage, how do you eat an elephant, Matt? 1 bite at a time. Well, it's 1 point at a time in the ZRL, and that's all they got, because Canyon did not slip. That was what Pio Otto was looking for, was a little more help. They would have loved to have seen Saris, the pros closet, who ended up in 3rd today, coming over the top of Canyon, but Canyon does not falter. It's nice to see Pio Otto Ceramic Speed step it up. Remembering they didn't have Knudsen today, and they still have a win like that. Draft, though, That's the standout ride. If you want to talk about an outlier, they hold on for fourth. They were in the hot seat for a lot longer than people were anticipating, I think, Matt.
Yeah, they're going to. I think Draft are going to be exceptionally happy with that ride. I mean, 11th place in the opening team time trial, but 4th place for them today. As you said, a real outlier of a ride. They're a team that have been around a while, but they certainly got it right on the night. Paced that particular course so well, but that's a real surprise. But a big gap this time between second and third, but only 2 seconds between the top two teams. What can Canyon Esports do? But they, I mean, without going into too much detail, we'll wait and see what that means for the actual table. But by my rough calculations, it does mean that Canyon Esports will still lead. But it just shows how well that the squad of Pio Auto Ceramic Speed have bounced back from what was last weekday. Without make no bones about it, a big disappointment for them.
Yeah, that's with the scoring table that we use. 20 points for the win, 19 for second. So the way I see it, it's only a 1-point gain after all of that work. And again, it was really about Canyon not missing a step out there today, and that's exactly what they did. So, you know what the great thing about this league is? It's 2 for the price of 1, as we've got another really dynamic race coming up. Looking forward to the women, Matt. This one's going to be at Donnybrook.
Well, that one, I mean, the men's race, I mean, they finished thick and fast. They absolutely blitzed it round that New York course. But, we do have the men's results just coming in. So let's have a look at the current league standings. Again, we've just tipped over that halfway point. 5 rounds done, 3 still to go. And there is the situation. Canyon Esports now lead with 93 points, 6 seconds better than Pio Auto Ceramic Speed, who lie in second place with 87 points. They move up 1 place. Saris and the Pros Closet in third with 85. Dutch Racing, after a very strong performance tonight, move up to fourth with 79. Legion of Los Angeles drop down after a slightly disappointing performance tonight for them. They're in fifth with 75 points. Swift Warriors, another solid performance by the Japanese-based squad. Really good ride tonight. They're up to 6th with 60. 7th, joint with World Elite Swifters, are Callis Esports with 58 points apiece. Kirkmayer E-Racing with 54 in 9th, should I say. 10th, Insured, powered by Pedal Power. So there we go. That is the situation with 3 rounds to go. And it is still very tight to the top. 1 more team time trial and 2 more points races. But after we've looked at the men's ranking, it's time now for the women's race. Before we have a look at the detail and what's in store for the riders tonight, let's have a little look back at the action from Harrogate last week. The rolling, luscious green hills of Harrogate.
41.6 kilometres, 5.5% average gradient.
We've already lost about 25 riders.
Already started to see riders struggling to stay on the pace.
This group really starting to thin out now.
Lethbridge comes round Kulczynski, just nabbed maximum points on the line there.
Lieberman takes the win from Alice Lethbridge and Catherine Curie. 20 riders, and then the gap to the next group on the road is a massive 24 seconds. They're making light work of this time. They're moving up it so quickly. Lethbridge from Huback. Heino are not taking any chances at all. Hoovering up these points out on the road. We have 17 riders in this front group. This is that steep part of the climb. This is where the gradient starts to bite. Loudon, who's going to take maximum points here. 550 metres to go. Williams, Curie, this is amazing. MacGyver takes the win. MacGyver primes her power up and her sprint to perfection. What a superb race that was. And it was a really attritional, tough race. Of course, won individually by Beth MacGyver of Cryo RDT, their biggest win as a squad. An absolutely superb race. Let's have a little look at the standings. after 4 rounds. Well, there we go. Hino Racing, well, absolutely dominant. 4 from 4 from a team perspective, and that is what this league is all about. Points for the team, 80 points to the good. Canyon Esports, not too far behind though. They're currently in second with 74. Then we have 2024 in third. I Race Like a Girl, superb performance for them in fourth with 69. Insured, powered by Pedal Power. They're in fifth, equal with Cryo RDT. Then we have Saris and the Pros Closet. Team Swedish as Zwifters, if I can get my words out. Kiss Racing Team are in ninth. And then rounding out the top 10 with 4 rounds to go, Drops Lecole with 40 points. So Ionian Racing Team there in 11th. Then we have Tibco Silicon Valley 12th, No Pins 13th, ATP Racing Venom 14th, equal with Aero, TFC in 16th, Vision E-Racing 17th, and at the bottom of the rankings with 4 rounds to go, should I say, Revolution Velo with 15 points. So the riders are already out on the course. It's exactly the same course for the women as the men's. 1 lap of the mighty Metropolitan Rim, the 20.7 kilometre course, 319 metres of elevation, and it is Team Revo that we're looking at the moment. 18 teams on the grid. Remember, they're spaced out 30 seconds apart. And Revolution Velo consisting of Heather Downey, Catherine Haug-Sans, Becca Ward, Sharon Stiles and Sue Lynn Holt. They're well on their way, and it will be interesting to see. What's your, I mean, we discussed it right at the top of the show, Dave, didn't we, as the riders are out on the road, that Hino Racing are really the team to beat, without a shadow of a doubt. We kind of almost expect them to win, especially on a course as tough as this. But what team do you think could really push them close on this course?
I have to go with I Race Like a Girl, to tell you the truth. Catherine Curie, again, it's not one rider. And it's so important to remember that it's not 2 riders. It's really not even 3, but 3 riders is where we take the time. But I think I Race Like a Girl would be the team, if anyone is going to challenge out here. No Pins R3R with Lou Bates and company. That's another team that has a lot of potential. We're with the Australian team, Aero, right now. This is a team that's working hard at this discipline. Aero has got a tremendous amount of potential. Justine Barrow, Katie Banerjee, Alana Forrester, and Emily Watts. 4 riders here. Again, you could start with 5. Time taken off of the 3rd. But that's a really good question for today. You know, 2024, it's going to be a big test for them. You know, I mean, if they had 5 Kulchinskis, it would be one thing. Adding Rachel Lieberman for them was huge. Rachel is a quality rider that will be one of the 3. If Rachel Lieberman isn't in the 3 that finish for 2024, it's probably been a pretty rough day. Then you look at Natalia Franco, the Colombian. They might have that performance today. I never count them out, that's for sure. They also have been working tremendously hard at this team time trial discipline. They've got a lot of team motivation. That's another thing. Morale is going to be important today. We've talked about during the men's race, Matt, how the directors have a real challenge here of keeping the team on task without blowing the squad up. It's much harder than you would think with the different personalities, mindsets, and, let's be honest, ability levels that you have even on one team.
Indeed, well, that's happening just here as we look at Vision E-Racing. Already down to 3 riders, Charlotte Colclough, Kate Robinson and Sarah Story. Just rotating here, just making sure Robinson gets back in contact. There's no point the other riders leaving her. They need that 3rd counter. And just as a reminder, as Dave talked about, it is the 3rd rider that counts. And unfortunately, Vision E-Racing, I wouldn't say they're underpowered, but they've got to make sure that they look after each other. As we look at ATP are racing now, Venom, lovely kit, again another one of my favorite kits here, really nice coloured bikes as well. Let's look at ATP Racing Venom, Anel Radford, Angela Roberts, Cassie Nelson, Jennifer Santoyo and Regina Legge on the lower slopes of this reverse KOM. On to the glass roadway now. They can just see the greenery below in Central Park, and it looks like Legge is just being distanced here. But again, they'll see how she is. You can just see the watts just starting to drop there, and this is only on the very early part of the climb. And No Pins next up here, Dave.
Yeah, and this is a team that looks well drilled, don't they? Eva Marie Herring, No Pins is a team that has a lot of potential. I was mentioning a team to watch. Lou Bates is a standout rider. Julia Decker as well. Claire Walters, Eva Marie Herring, I mentioned a moment ago, and the Micah van der Plas. This is a team that knows what they're up against, is prepared, and now it's going to come down to, do you have the legs or not? Because certainly the motivation is going to be there. You don't get many shots at a course like this, so No Pins absolutely looking solid now. It looks like we have lost one rider, and I think that's Decker is still there, so I think it's Claire Walters that has let them go.
Indeed, I think it is Claire Walters indeed. Of course, Eva Marie Herring, the German rider, just in third position there, just getting on the wheel of Lou Bates, who will really like this sort of course. Lou Bates will revel on a course like this. But of course, Eva Marie Herring, a finalist in the very recent Zwift Academy. As we look at the Ionian race team, a team that you named at the top of the show, Dave, as one of the teams that, of course, moved from the community divisions and are racing very, very well indeed. Jemily Wright, Marina Ars, Barbara Fritsch, Ariel Verhaeren and Rebecca Kearney, and they look to be riding pretty well. And again, if there's ever going to be a test of how you ride as a unit, it's going to be on this course, isn't it, Dave?
Absolutely, Matt. I don't know that you could test a team any more than we are here. ATP Venom was another team that came from the community that has done a really great job of encouraging and representing that community. And certainly there's a lot of folks that take pride in that, in with Team Swedish Zwifters now, men and women. The Swedish Zwifters have a tremendous amount of experience. Remember that Nations Challenge that we did? I guess that was November, early December. Well, the Swedes really represented well there, and it's because of riders like Anna Embring, Anna Svartström, Jessica Enqvist, Maria Frisk, and Marlene Bjarret that we've got right now. Always a team to watch out here. 5 riders together. But Matt, going back to what you were talking about, this is the greatest team time trial test that we've come across yet. They did Alpe Zwift, and they've done some, reverse Richmond, but I think this one, all in all, is going to be the very, very sharp edge of the sword.
It certainly is. Well, this is the KISS Racing team, currently lining 7th position overall. Eiley Gardner, she's had a very, very good series so far. Deb Slules Parker, Claire ahead. Jill Seaman and Sarah Portella. Looks like they've got everybody in. Oh, they've got one rider just started to drop off the back here. But Eiley Gardner, unsurprisingly, is the rider that I think would do quite a lot of pulls on the front here. And again, at the top of the show, Dave, before we came in here, we were discussing the ins and outs, the technical nature of the team time trial. And because this course is so hard, you could get certain riders, especially riders with a really good power to weight ratio, the good climbers that could spend really long periods of time on the front, essentially pulling their team along for maybe a third or even a half of this course as the riders just fight to stay in the wheel behind.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you deconstruct how you race a team time trial. And I really want to dig back in on what you're talking about there. So Eiley should get a ton of credit for setting a tempo that was reasonable enough that the other riders could stay with her. I mean, she's one of in that handful of riders that have really made their mark in esports. Some tremendous results that she's already had. So great job. This is Annabella Stoll that we're looking at now, the Canadian rider who's doing the same thing. She's exactly that rider that you were talking about, Matt. Incredible in the metric of watts per kilogram. So instead of demoralizing and blowing her team up, she's setting a very nice pace right there for Saris the Pros Closet. And they are a real contender out here today. That's last week's winner, the Scottish rider Beth McIver here. Cryo has had a tremendous week as the Cryo Nation, Matt. There are hundreds and hundreds of riders who ride for various incarnations of the Cryo team. So it's really nice to see them have success at the high end.
It certainly is, and they're riding together well as a unit at the moment. Krogega on the front there, the Norwegian. Beth McIver, as you said, great individual win last week. Superbly timed sprint, used that power up just at the right moment, and that was without a shadow of a doubt the biggest win in the history of this Cryo RDT team. Interesting bit of information there, Dave. I didn't know they had such a big kind of squad and kind of club atmosphere. As we look a little bit further down, this is the Insured Power by Pedal Power team. They're sat in 5th position at the moment. Mona-Lee Keller of Canada, Jamie Clark of America, Courtney Nelson and Melanie King, the other 2 Americans, and they're down to 4 riders here. This is this slight downhill section. They're already on the climb, although this part of the climb isn't exactly categorized, although it is a long slog. There's no real kind of fast run into this bit, is there, Dave? It's a long slog on this KOM reverse, and then it kicks up really sharply at the bottom, flattens, and then drags all the way to the line.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely, if you were with us throughout the show, you know that we have rated this as a brutal course. Now, this is a team, don't sleep on Insured, presented by Pedal Power. They've got some big results ahead of them. Mona-Lee Keller, a Canadian who lives in Seattle. Courtney Nelson is a rider who's got a lot of experience, but this is a team I put a gold star next to before the start of the race. Now, Matt, you were talking about a rider who might pull for more than half of the race out here today. Case in point, that disc wheel on the back of Katherine Curie. She's out of the Bay Area, California, the 2005 U.S. Pro Road champion, but she has come back. She's already won 2 times this season in the ZRL. I mean, she is a rider who, fair to say, and fuego, on fire right now. And watch this. Well, we're going to jump in with Rachel Lieberman in 2024. We're riding in between big teams here, some huge names in esports there, as you see Kristen Kolchinski, Rachel Lieberman, Natalia Franco, Jasmine During, the bronze medal winner in the Olympics on the track. Race is pretty similar. Well, the track doesn't really go uphill, does it? But this discipline of team time trial, in that case, it's team pursuit. So Canyon sounds like they're coming up next here now, Matt, and we just did a quick preview of 3 of the teams to watch without any doubt, and we still haven't seen Hino.
No, we certainly haven't. They are out on the road. They won't be too far. They'll be breathing down the back, the necks of Canyon Esports. Kristin Falk, Bexy Dew, Kirsten Pohl, Cathy Machner and Cécile Lejeune, the French woman, and they've got a nice little cluster there. They know how to ride these climbs. They don't want to do any surging. They want to keep that pace nice and easy. There will be an instruction for the rider to go to the front to just try and make that nice tempo. It is Lejeune who now rolls to the front for the Canyon Esports squad. 2nd place for the men. Can they redeem the team and get a win? Remember, the team winner of the first team time trial this season, of course, unsurprisingly, was Hino Racing. 2024 was 2nd, and Canyon Esports were 3rd. As we look at Dame Sarah Story, one of the most decorated Paralympians of all time, and she really is a talismanic figure in that squad. Races on the road. She's got her own academy team as well, and of course, she is a ferocious, very talented campaigner as well, and she still can put out a lot of power. So good at the individual time trial and has really taken to riding on Zwift, but they have lost one of their riders. They're going to need to back off a little bit now, Dave.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about now, is it's not about just you, is that 3rd rider is critical. Matt, I remember when Dame Sarah Story came and raced in the United States. She was one of the best stories. The crowd was absolutely enthralled by her racing at the Amgen Tour of California. Wow, so we've seen some passing going on out here. This is TFC that we're in with here. Another rider on the rise is Eustace, the Canadian. So Matt, some of the teams are going to unravel here, that teams with experience, and it was really interesting hearing about your experience doing a team time trial and the difference that a director makes, or a steady hand out there to be able to let the riders know when they need to back off, what's happening, and it is absolutely critical on a day like today that you keep everybody just in check mentally, knowing where they need to be. You don't want riders questioning, am I doing the right thing right now? Because then it starts to just really unravel on you in a team time trial.
Exactly. Well, TFC, I think, are actually catching Vision E-Racing here. Dame Sarah Story now on the front. She's opened up a bit of a gap on one of her teammates, thinking she's such a good climber. But you quite rightly said there, Dave, it was a real insight for me to ride one of these WTRL team time trials. A road is a privilege to ride for the Zwift headquarters, a Rockets team. And I think, as well as the physical effort and getting to feel what it's like riding on the wheel of another rider, the effort that it takes to ride on the front, the discipline it takes to wait if somebody's gapped, it really does need somebody to kind of get that kind of captain's kind of role, either a rider. It's better if it's somebody outside of the team, in fact, because they're not gasping. But I must admit, being on a Discord call with five 5 other men breathing heavily down the line was a little bit of a strange experience, but I tell you what, it was so helpful to have somebody to guide you through, tell you when to change, tell you when to do turns on the front. It's very, very important indeed, and it's part and parcel of riding a good team time trial. As we look at that was the information on the right hand side. That was just the first 5Ks. Cryo RDT have actually gone over the top of the Queen of the Mountains. And there we go, TFC. Well, they actually have caught Vision and they've caught Revolution Velo. And they have set a time at the first intermediate split, or the only intermediate split, of 17:02. Visionary Racing 36 seconds behind. So a great time has been set so far by Dave. Let's have a look at Revo as they cross the top. Well, still TFC. So TFC set the faster time so far. Very respectable time indeed, 17:02, Dave.
Oof, and now you see that aero time coming through right there. So the current benchmark at 17 minutes. As soon as we have a race like a Girl through, or Aeonian for that matter, and I think that they're not that far off, we're going to start seeing times down in the 16s. This is the squad. I'm already stunned to see that we only have 4 here. So Williams, who we don't have a picture from, what an inspirational rider Caroline is. An incredible story. Alice Lethbridge, we heard from our very own Kim Little, what a phenomenal rider she is, even when she's just out cruising with the big group ride. Louise Huback, the Danish rider, well, the Danes have already had success out here today, and she is a monster. And the Swede, Cecilia Hansen, and Vicky Whitelaw. I'm looking, I guess it's Whitelaw, that the Australian, who's tremendous talent. I guess she's not in the group with the team right now, which is a bit of a surprise, to tell you the truth. Vicky,
Yep, we don't know what's happened there, but that did surprise me, Dave. We know how well they can ride as a unit. Look at their equipment choice as well. Every single rider with an aero helmet, and they've all gone for the disc wheel setup as well. Hansen, Lethbridge, Huback and Williams. No Pins R3R have now gone through with the fastest intermediate time, knocking, I think it was, well, 4.5 seconds off the time of TFC. So No Pins with the 16:57 have set the benchmark very high now. TFC sit in second, Aero then a big gap down, or a bigger gap should I say, to ATP. Vision sit in 5th, and Revolution sit at 1 minute and 28 seconds. So some good times being set out on the course. But yeah, a little bit of a surprise there to see Caroline Williams being dropped. As we look at the Ionian racing team there, Gemily Wright, Mariana Ars, Barbara Frisch, Ariel Verhaeren and Rebecca Kearney just out of the saddle.
Do you recognize that flag for Jamie Lee Wright, Matt?
I'm
putting you on. I'm testing you big time here because I had no idea.
You'll have to fill me in, actually.
It's Guernsey. Which
I should know. I have been to Guernsey, but I didn't realise that was the flag.
So you would even have to tell me it's a small. So it's part of the United Kingdom, but a small island just off of the coast of England. Is that correct?
It's just off the coast of France, actually. So yeah, Guernsey and Jersey, who have their own kind of semi-independence from the UK. But yeah, they're kind of nearer France than they are England. In fact, as we look at Eilidh Gardner here, a bit of a split here. So Eilidh Gardner.
We were talking about Eilidh earlier.
Yeah,
but what a good job she's doing. Yeah, I mean, it's just tailor-made for her. What I'm really impressed with is the quality of character that she's showing, setting a pace that's keeping the team together. You've seen a couple other teams where that wasn't the case, where the strongest climber, unfortunately, was dropping the team. Now, eventually, it's all going to have to come together one way or another as well. Or you can finish a minute and a half ahead of your teammate where the time is taken. So this is going to be Cryo and Saris that all over the shop, left, right, and center. I had a feeling we were going to see this out here today. This is actually 3 teams now cross-pollinating here. This is how you end up with a Lyman, a half a lemon and half a lemon. Yeah.
This is amazing, Dave, because of the Cryo RDT, they've actually overtaken Saris and the Pros Closet. So Beth MacGyver on the front there. The women in that lovely fresh kit, that blue and white kit, go over the top of the Queen of the Mountains, and they set the fastest time so far, 16:24. Buoyed by the success in Harrogate last week. That is a superb time, 30 seconds better than the next best team, which is Team Swedish Swifters. Cryo RDT sitting in 6th place on the general classification with 4 rounds done, and they are setting this NYC course alight with that climb. I did not see that coming. Did not see them, Dave, catching Saris in the crow's closet at only half distance.
This is a turning point for the season, no doubt, with Beth McIver, the Scottish rider, winning last week. Cryo, which has been around for years. Matt, earlier in the broadcast, we were talking about the thousands of people who ride for all of their community teams. Well, this is a breakthrough ride from Cryo RDT. We're looking at Marie-Louise Hartz-Krogag, Linda Klein, Alice Perryman, and Beth McIver. We mentioned Beth winning last week. That was, that was certainly when a lot of people took note. But this is driving that nail home now. When you talk about Cryo having a ride like this, now, are they going to beat Heino? I don't know. You know what's great is that's a conversation that wasn't happening a couple weeks ago, but all of a sudden you have to, Matt, if you're shortlisting the top teams now in the league, well, go ahead and put Cryo on that list and write it down in pen. Now, we're with Canyon now. Now, sometimes this image comes back to us a little bit different, Matt. Cecile Lejeune, and there you go. Rest of the team right behind her. Kirsten Pohl having a great ride here today. The fact that she is still with the team, Matt, means that they are going to have a nice advantage in the last 5K because she is a huge engine. She'll give them a couple km/h boost.
Indeed, we'll look at the leaderboard at the moment. 2024, 16:09, Canyon Esports 7:22. It looks as if Heino are going to take that because they weren't that too far behind. I think they've actually got Canyon Esports in their sights. I have a feeling that's going to change. Indeed, Heino Racing, unsurprisingly, unsurprisingly now have set the fastest time, but 2024 are the second team, only 9.69 seconds behind. Canyon Esports at 16.91. I Race Like a Girl moved over Cryo at 17 seconds. So Cryo RDT, still a solid performance, but that has been blown out of the water by the women in red, who are now plummeting down the reverse KOM.
This is massive for 2024. To be honest, Kristen Kolchinski has got to be absolutely loving it, in her element on a course like today's. And if the team is stepping up around her, well, this is a dream come true. I mean, to be just inside of 10 seconds back, there is the mighty, mighty Shayna Paulus. Shayna with Jasmine During, we mentioned her Olympic success, the Colombian Natalia Franco. No image from Kolchinski, but look at the watts coming from her. Heartbeat at 175 right now. And then Rachel Lieberman, another rider out of Seattle. Right now, Matt, in the United States, Seattle is producing an insane number of world-class esports racers. The list is more, it's coming up on a dozen riders that are racing at this level, coming out of the Pacific Northwest, and Rachel Lieberman is one of them.
Well, they're riding so well as a unit. Paulus, During, Franco, Kolchinski, as you said, Lieberman. 5 riders here. They're not too far behind. Remember, 9 seconds they've got to try and find and make up. And they've only got around 8.5 kilometres to do that, but they do have the benefit of having one rider more than Team Heino. We lost that rider early on. Remember, they lost Caroline Williams early on. We don't know exactly what the problem was. But yeah, a big surprise. But they've got the benefit now. They'll know exactly what they need to do. Kolchinski now, unsurprisingly, doing a very long pull on the front. So great to see this team still with 5 riders. That's going to give them that little bit of added impetus, perhaps that little bit more belief, and they know what the time gap is as well. So they're going to have to try and find something very special on the next section of this course now.
Kolchinski is like a cocktail napkin with an outboard motor strapped onto the back of it. I mean, she has been pulling the entire time that we've been watching here. I think she's finally going to rotate off of the front because Jasmine During is going to pull through here. That was an outstanding effort out here. This is a ride to remember from 2024 happening today. Looks like we're going to jump back in with Sisu. I Race Like a Girl. Same situation here. One of the best riders in the league, Catherine Curie here, with 2 wins already leading this team, and they're about to make a catch, Matt.
Well, great. You can just see Catherine Curie there on the front. I just up this little kick. They've come to the bottom of the descent, but the road kicks up again before then dropping down. And Curie pushing out 300 watts. Still on the front there. Ramsey really trying to shut the gap now. The rider from the Netherlands. There's a little bit of a gap that opened up from Curie now. She's desperate to try and keep this pace high. And there's also an art to riding these descents as well. Of course, you can freewheel. Once you get to 58 k's an hour, you get into that super tuck. But you've got to make sure that you get on the power just at the right time to maintain that momentum. But I race like a girl, now rocketing down this course on this this glass section. And it does look like they're going to catch Insured, powered by Pedal Power. So 30 seconds to the good. So a very, very strong performance here, Dave, by I Race Like a Girl. They're going to catch the women in right in just a few meters' time.
Well, and this really plays into their hands perfectly as they've had this carrot out in front of them because Insured is no joke. And that's a really strong team that they're catching. Carly Johan is the rider. Meredith Kessler, another world-class triathlete on this team. The fact that Catherine Curie is getting this kind of help from the team, so I have to think now that we are into a 3-team race. There's no doubt that I Race Like a Girl, who we've got in front of us now, have done a negative split type of race. They're going to be closing in on the fastest times out here. The fact that you've got Heino down to 4 riders now, it's going to be interesting. And with 2020 having a ride of their lifetimes, as far as that team goes, I don't think they've put together a team time trial. They've got 5 riders together at this point in the race. That is exceptional. We're back in with Heino. These are the queens of eSport racing, Matt. There's no doubt about it. Throughout Season 1 and Season 2, they have not missed a step, and they are about to nail back Canyon.
They are indeed. Look at this. It's a great bit of section that we can see here now. You can see our 4 riders from Heino. Williams sadly has been dropped, but Lethbridge, Whitelaw, Hansen and Huback. The team in their sights is Canyon, of course, the team that is second overall. Well, this is going to be a big, big coup, a real dent to the morale of the Canyon esports team. And what they have to do by the rules as well, the team cannot join into the slipstream of Heino. They have to back off, make sure that draft drops away before then continuing. The same rules in real life in the team time trial. And this, I think, is the moment where Canyon Esports are about to be caught by a rampaging 4-rider Heino team. This is absolutely sensational stuff. They are torching this route today here in NYC, Dave.
Caroline Williams has a capacity unlike any other rider I know. She's not only a mom, but I mean, this is a world-class human being. She's a lifestyle when you look at it, and she has done a tremendous job with this team. Again, that's Canyon that we're looking at right now. Kristen Falk, Bexy Dew, Kirsten Pohl, Kathy Machner, and Cecilia Junin. They've got nothing to hang their heads about, even though they're going now. Heino, if they win here, this will continue their perfect streak. But we're going to go into the finish line now on Cat's Hill in beautiful Central Park. It's a little snowier than this today in New York, as TFC will stop the clock and we'll start looking at finishing times now as we go back to the final team to start, as they're just about to make this catch. Again, see, Canyon's not laying down for anybody. Nobody puts baby in a corner, Matt. They certainly aren't going to, as I said, hang their heads about getting caught. And we're not that far from the finish line as we go in with Aero now. The Australian team finishing with 3.
Well, their Aero just rolling through now. TFC have set a time of 29:57. And here we go, the 3-rider Aero team just crossing the line. The team from Australia are now done and dusted. They finish 4 seconds adrift, 4.5 seconds adrift, exactly 4.55. Revo just coming into the finish. So all of the teams now finishing thick and fast. Revo Velo, they were the first team to start off. They've been caught by Vision E-Racing and TFC. So it won't be the lead time for this squad as they cross the line, but they certainly haven't disgraced themselves on the streets of New York City tonight. They crossed the line. Their team time trial tonight is done and it is dusted.
This is Aeonian, their new kit that they earned. Yeah, right, Matt. This kit, a good example of one of the benefits of being the best in the community is that you get your in-game kit. They look fantastic as we see ATP finishing here. Jen Santoyo and company across the line. That time will show up on our board in just a moment. And there it is, 21 28.48 back. That's going to be updated constantly. No pins, R3R with the 29.53. That's your fastest time. TFC in 4.33 seconds back. Three teams within 10 seconds of each other. I expect the time gaps to be larger than that, to tell you the truth. And this should be a good time coming in from Aeonian here now, Matt.
It certainly should. They've been setting some pretty decent times out on the course. They've still got 4 riders in their unit. They're just coming up towards Cat Hill, which takes us to the finish line here in the heart of beautiful Central Park. It is a lovely day in Central Park here in New York. I don't think it particularly replicates the IRL conditions. As we know, there's a fair bit of snow laying on the ground in the Big Apple today, but the Aeonian Racing Team starting to thunder through the finish. They'll be desperate now. There'll be lactic acid coursing through their legs. The riders at their very limits of their capacity. The team time trial is a beautiful discipline. It's a discipline that requires skill. It requires team cohesion, but it requires also the ability to suffer. It certainly does, and they are finally coming into the finishing straight. What is going to be the time for the Aeonian race team, newly promoted to the Premier Division? And finally, they cross the line. Let's have a look at the time that they have set. Aeonian in 4th place at 18 seconds, so no disgrace at all, Dave, as we look at the team Swedish Swifters out on the course with a full 5-rider roster still there.
But cycling is a sport that will forever keep you humble, and cycle race commentating even more so. I am stunned how many teams, Matt, are finishing with more than 3 riders out here. Speaks to the quality, no doubt about it. The Swedes are done and dusted now. We're in with Ceres. They do have 3 riders here. I have a feeling that Stoll set a very fast pace on that reverse KOM, and they're going to take their chances with 3. It'll be interesting, Matt. Does it pay off not keeping around an extra engine for this part on the course? So obviously everybody's having to do a little extra work now with only 3 running the shop rather than 4 or 5. And you know, I mean, right now, as far as I know, there's a couple teams that still have 5, including 2024. If that's the case, I mean, you could say Cryo finishing right now. They're going to come across the line with 4. Beth MacGyver, what a rider she is. Scott's going to bring them on home. Let's punch out here. That should be a good one, no doubt. There it is, fastest time, 28.58, Matt, by 42 seconds. Oh, man.
It was only a brief stint at the top of the leaderboard for the team at Swedish Swifters there. We almost missed them, but Cryo RDT have absolutely pulverized that time. 41.9 seconds now to 2nd place. We know Cryo RDT did a very, very good intermediate time. It is KISS Racing Team now coming up the finishing straight. Arlie Gardner just on the left-hand side. Looks like she's going to be the first rider across the line for the KISS Racing Team. An exceptionally experienced squad there. They cross the line there. What is their time going to be? I don't think it's going to be good enough to beat Cryo RDT on the night. No, it certainly isn't. So Cryo RDT like a girl. Steals. I race like a girl. Yeah, just crossing the line. What have they managed to do? There's so many teams crossing the line. They've just taken the lead. I race like a girl. 28.50, 8 seconds better than Cryo RDT. As we look at Insured, powered by Pedalbow, crossing the line. And now it is Team 2024. They're almost in one big peloton. This should be the best time so far, based on what we've seen before.
And by a lot, 10 seconds quicker than I raced like a girl. Kolchinsky has a ride of a lifetime out there today. As a matter of fact, we'll go back and analyze that one. It wasn't enough to beat these monsters. Heino now. Whoa, they were challenged out here today. But the Occam's razor here, how do you beat this team? You're just going to have to work harder. There's nothing else to it. As these women do their homework, they come prepared and they deliver another knockout performance here in New York. Wow. So this is a team that they would have ridden past out there, and Canyon should still be in the top 4 today.
Yeah, that was an amazing performance there. Canyon, the final team out on the course. Of course, we saw them caught by Team Heino Racing, but Heino make it 5 from 5 with a time of 28 minutes and 17 seconds. And there we go, maximum points again, 5 from 5. They are absolutely unstoppable. 4.46 watts per kilo for that time of 28.17. 2024, superb performance by them. Good enough for second place at 22 seconds. I Race Like a Girl, another sterling performance by that squad who have really made their mark this year. They're in third at 33. Cryo RDT continued to impress in fourth place at 41 seconds. Canyon Esports today down in fifth at 42, just 1 second behind the team in front. Insured Powered by Pedal Power, well, they're sixth at 115. Team Swedish Swifters at 123 in seventh. No Pins R3R Racing Team at 136 in eighth. Ninth, TFC at 140, and then rounding out our top 10, Team Aero from Australia at 1 minute and 45 seconds. Well, Dave, let's have a quick look at page 2. Saris and the Pros Closet in 11th. Ionian Race Team there in 12th. ATP Racing Venom in 13th. KISS Racing Team KRT, they're at 223 and 14th. Vision E-Racing, our penultimate team today at 329. And then rounding out our entire lineup in 16th position at 3 minutes and 40 seconds, Revolution Velo. Well, Dave, we almost were knocked off our seats there. The racing was so exciting. They almost finished in one big peloton at the end. They always merged like a handicap race. But what can you say about the power, the might of Team Hino? Is there anything that team cannot do?
What I love is that they'll have to be back next week to prove it again. We're looking at a championship era unlike anything I've really seen, because this was the beginning. When you look at CRL, they still have not lost. And I mean, obviously that day has to come. It's inevitable. No champion remains champion forever. But this is a fun storyline too. And you look at the quality of the individuals that make up that team. Go ahead and invest in that storyline for sure. Then you look at what's happening too. Second, third, fourth, all of these teams make a play for your heart with the efforts that they're making out there. There's a reason these women are the gladiators of esports here on Zwift. There's no question. I mean, if you Zwift yourself and you see what they did today, and you see how deep these teams are digging, this is some inspirational racing.
It certainly is. I mean, exceptionally high standard, world-class kind of power to weight ratios there. Just shows how much these teams have invested in getting it right. But of course, the other teams now looking to Hino to almost kind of make a mistake and have a bad night, because they even caught Canyon with just 4 riders. They actually took more time out of Team 2024, who had a full complement. So I don't think you could fault anybody else. It's just that Hino are so strong. But Dave, we're over the halfway point. Left in the series now, we've got 3 more races. One is a team time trial. That'll be the final. It's a completely different course. It's a flat one around London. And then we've got 2 more points races. What have the other teams got to do? What kind of tactics do you think they can employ? If you were to pick one tactic, what do they need to do to beat the might of Hino?
Well, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at him, and I'm actually going to, as Matt, in your professional career in cycling, it's not unheard of for multiple teams to start maybe working together for all of our better interest. And you would think that maybe some conversations between 2024 and I Race Like a Girl about sending some dangerous breaks up the road. Let's force the issue here. And I think that the way these women are racing, they're not going to make it easy for Hino. There is no question, Matt. But I don't know that I have the director sportif skills to be able to crack that code, to tell you the truth. But that's what's so great about racing is we'll watch this play out. That's for sure. We're heading to a whole lot of lava on Watopia next week. Week after that, we're back at Libby Hill. So 2 races where if you want to try to do some damage, you've got plenty of opportunity to.
You certainly have, Dave. Lots of exciting racing still to come in season 2 of the WTRL. But let's have a look at the rankings so far. After round 5, that was the mighty Metropolitan, and this is the situation. Look at that, 5 from 5, giving maximum points. A nice round 100 points for Hino Racing Team there. Canyon Esports in second place with 90. Third place at the moment with 3 rounds to go. 2024 with 89. Very close behind. Only 1 point between second and third. I Race Like a Girl there in fourth. Only a couple of points adrift. So it's a real battle. It still isn't over at the top of the rankings by any stretch of the imagination. Insured Power by Pedal Power. They're there in fifth. Equal with Cryo. at 75. Saris and at the Pros Closet, another equal team. They've got the same amount of points as Team Swedish Zwifters with 57. 8th, Kiss Racing Team, or should I say 9th, Kiss Racing Team. And then 10th place, No Pins R3R E Racing Team with 49. And looking a little bit further down the rankings, 11th Ionian Race Team, 12th Drops Lacole, 13th Aero, 14th Team Tidco Silicon Valley Bank. Then we have TFC, ATP Racing Venom, Vision E Racing, and then Revolution Velo. And the teams at the second half of that league now, Dave, are going to be looking at survival. We talked about the teams battling out of the top to win the championship, to try and upseat Team Hino. But there's a few teams there that are going to have a completely different strategy. It's trying to look at the teams around them in a fight for survival for these final 3 rounds.
Yeah, man, and I love seeing on the internet all the chatter from the community teams that are talking about how they're going to take on the course tomorrow. I think that they learned a lot watching both the men's and the women's. It's so much fun with the equipment choices, the tactics, the strategy, and every team now realizes you can't do this without a director sportif as well. I'm actually one that was disappointed to see the team time trial move down from 4 to 3. I love this discipline. I know we've got one more to look forward to wrap up the season. But Matt, I'll throw it back to you after another fantastic day of racing. I love this league.
Well, David, it's been a spectacular again. I always love visiting the Big Apple. It's one of my favourite places on Earth and in the virtual world as well. But we've got a lot more action. The action never really stops on Zwift, to say the very least. We've got the WTRL Zwift community races. They're actually starting kind of now. We've got racing tomorrow, I believe, that you'll be commentating on with Nathan Guerra. We've got World of Zwift on Friday, presented by OJ Borge. And of course, we've got makeup days as well for the Tour de Zwift, which is coming to a close. Stage 8, you can ride now. So much more to come on Zwift. And of course, next week, as you just alluded to, Dave, we have round number 7, and that is a whole lot of lava. It's back to a points race. Got 2 more points race left in this series, and then we round out season 2 with a team time trial. But thanks as ever for joining us. Please do get involved in the comments. And why not try racing on Zwift yourself? Head over to WTRL and join another 40,000 people who are making this community something very, very special indeed. Right. Thanks again for watching. But for now, from the Big Apple, from me and Dave Towle, stay safe and ride on.